Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major! Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios and the films they released. My name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And Charlie Nash.
Hello.
And joining us is a super special guest, one half of Exiting Through the 2010s. It is Clay Williams. How are you?
You fucking finally, it's taken 3 goddamn years to get me on here. I'm good friends with all of you.
Your big debut.
I tried to get you, and then Jack was just like, he big broed you. Every time I tried to DM you, it just popped up like Clippy on like Microsoft Word, and it was like, did you mean to message Jack Draper? And I was like, I guess I did.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. 3 years, gentlemen. I'm here now, and I'm not leaving, actually. I know that wasn't okayed beforehand, but I'm here, and I'm not leaving.
The wolf of Exiting Through the 2010s.
And you're here to talk about 2 movies that you think are, I don't know, fine, I guess?
Yeah. You're all right.
You're here to talk about movies that if you weren't on record, you would probably forget them in 3 days.
I'm not covering...
They're Italian.
Right, they're Italian. I'm not covering, Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai. I'm not covering The Limey. I'm not covering Evil Dead. I'm covering these pieces of shit. And I'm your friend. I've talked to you guys individually.
Well, to be honest, we've covered more garbage this miniseries than good movies, so, I mean... The odds were not in your favor regardless. And today we're talking about a Copkiller from 1983. This was released as Corrupt by New Line Cinema in 1984. It is also known as Corrupt Lieutenant, and that was the release date on VHS after Bad Lieutenant came out. It's also known as The Order of Death, and it is also known as Bad Cop Chronicles No. 2, Corrupt. And I'll get into why there's so many titles for this in the trivia.
Did anyone else have The Order of Death as their title when they were watching this?
Yes, that's
did.
that's like the Blu-ray version that Code Red put out is the only good copy of it, and it's Order of Death.
That's what it comes up on IMDb, is Order of Death.
Right. Yeah, and then the poster for it says Copkiller, which is very funny.
Unfortunately, they don't drop the Public Image Limited song, though, which is really good. The one where it's like, this is what you want, this is what you get. Just on repeat.
I'll get to that in the trivia also.
Oh, sweet.
But it's very funny that Order of Death comes up, and then the very next shot is a newspaper that just says Copkiller, and I'm just like, oh, we're just getting all the titles. Okay.
I mean, Order of Death makes no sense as a title. I don't even understand it.
No, I mean it has to be Copkiller. I mean, you see, who's gonna watch a movie called Corrupt? Who's gonna watch a movie called Copkiller? It's like, I know what that movie's about. Corrupt, that could be anything.
It's about the rapper Corrupt.
That would kick ass. I would like that. It's Corrupt with a C, not with a K. This was released in Italy, March 15th, 1983. It was released in the U.S. January 19th, 1984 in New York, and then expanded to other art house theaters from there. I don't know the budget, don't know the opening weekend money, and I don't know the overall gross. Top 5 films that weekend are Tootsie, 48 Hours, The Verdict, Gandhi, and The Dark Crystal.
That's not a bad top 5.
That's pretty much cool. All bangers. I've seen none of them, but I mean they're all fairly well known.
You haven't seen any of those?
Oh, 48 Hours is awesome. I mean, Walter Hill's filmography has a lot of great stuff. Yeah,
that's actually the one I haven't seen. Weirdly, I haven't seen 48 Hours either.
If I had to choose from all 4 or 5 of these, I would definitely choose 48 Hours first. But it would be very funny, Charlie, if you were like, you haven't seen Gandhi. It's just like, yeah, let me carve out 3.5 hours.
I actually haven't seen Gandhi either.
I haven't either.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Brad.
Who's Gandhi?
He was that one guy that oh god, what was his deal? He loved to eat. I think he's all you can eat buffets. They were named after Gandhi.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Didn't he write that book, Eat, Pray, Love?
He was portrayed.
That sounds right.
He was portrayed by Michael Fassbender in the movie Hunger. Number 1 song in the U.S. this week is "Owner of a Lonely Heart" by Yes, and number 1 song in Canada this week is "Karma Chameleon" by Culture Club. Those are some '80s ass songs right there. But Yes kicks ass. Plot description from Google. Corrupt Lieutenant Fred O'Connor, played by Harvey Keitel, spends his nights in a ritzy Central Park West apartment he's paid for by shaking down a drug dealer. But his professional life is dominated by the murder of several colleagues. When punk rocker Leo Smith... is he a punk rocker? I mean, John Lydon is. but he's
certainly not in the movie.
He's just a little mousy fuck. He's not a punk rocker. When punk rocker Leo Smith, played by John Lydon, aka Johnny Rotten, comes forward to say he committed the crimes, O'Connor gives him the brush off. But when the punk finds out about the officer's double-dealing ways, the men realize they're stuck together until the investigation ends. It really turns into like a little wacky sitcom where they're just like, "Are you going out tonight again?" And you're just like,
Pick up your food.
Seems like you shaved today.
He's like, "We should get a TV so I can play video games." He's like, I guess.
I mean, I wish that's what the whole movie had been, just like about like Harvey Keitel having like a shitty roommate. I would have watched that.
They're going to like whatever the equivalent of Hot Topic is in 1983 and getting like posters of like I don't know.
They somehow have posters of The Dark Knight everywhere. Yeah.
Harvey Keitel comes home and John Lydon's like having like all these crazy parties or whatever. He's just like,
I mean,
I need to see Harvey Keitel in an Invader Zim hoodie now.
Jesus
That'll
Christ.
happen.
They're watching Donnie Darko on VHS. But yeah, I mean, I get it. The apartment's empty just like their lives. But like, I was just like, really? They're like willing to like go through all this shit and just not do anything with that space?
Well, it's like I get it that they have it just so they can eventually sell it, but it's like you seem to spend more time here than in your regular apartment. Maybe put up a poster, get a television.
He
get
only
more
gets
than
the
one
TV
record.
when the serial killer starts asking for one.
Which, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do it when.
I wonder how long he was there for, because it's one of those things where if someone's asking me to buy a new appliance, they have to be there for at least like a few weeks or so, maybe even a month. Like, I'm not. But
he knows he has money, and he has the knowledge of being like, "I'll rat your ass out." So buy the television.
Also, John Lydon's character also like comes from a very wealthy family too. He's like an heir.
I don't think
so
he has
like
any
maybe
cash
he's using
on
his
him.
money. I don't know though.
He seems like he definitely was just like, I don't want to deal with this money. I want to be a crust punk, which is like how all crust punks happen. But
what's a crust punk?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Gandhi was a crust punk.
Oh God.
Based on the Hugh Fleetwood 1977 novel The Order of Death, it was adapted by Eno Di Concini, who wrote and won an Oscar for Divorce Italian Style, Hugh Fleetwood, the author, and Roberto Faesna. Faesna?
So the book was called The Order of Death?
Yes.
Weird.
Yeah. Why is that weird?
I don't
Most
know.
movies take their title from the book.
Well, I just know for some reason The Order of Death sounds so like bizarrely generic in a way. I mean, I know Copkiller is also super generic, like way more generic, but in the sense of I understand The Order of Death. I just don't get how this relates to the movie at all. Like the story.
It sounds like people waiting for the death penalty.
Right.
Like, it sounds like
I'm gonna assume that the
like...
book gets more into the whole copism of it all, maybe, and that's where the order comes from. I don't know.
Oh, I get it. All right, sure. Let's do that. Let's go with that.
Charlie said he's gonna read it later, so we'll have a book podcast in a week. We have our own book club. Directed by Roberto Faesa as well. Also directed a movie called, like a bunch of other Italian movies, but also directed a movie called Someday This Pain Will Be Useful to You in 2011. And this stars Marcia Gay Harden, Peter Gallagher, Lucy Liu, Ellen Bernstein, and Aubrey Plaza. And I've never heard of this movie.
I'm not. For a second, I thought you were. For a second, you read that as if I was like, is 2011 in part of the title?
Yeah. This pain will be useful to you in 2011.
Yeah, that movie came out in like 1987.
It's a prequel to 2012. John Cusack's in it. Anybody seen 2012? Anybody watch 2012?
Oh yeah, the
Saw it
whole
in
world.
theaters.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters too. The whole world dies, but John Cusack and Amanda Peter. Okay, so happy ending.
No offense to them, but it's just very weird. They're like, all right, we got Roland Emmerich. We're going to make a big blockbuster disaster movie. Who's the couple in this movie? The guy that was just in 1408 and the woman that was in Whole 9 Yards.
I mean, that was like that's like one of the last times Cusack is like the lead in like a big series movie. I mean, Mitchell's probably like listening to this now and be like, "Hot Time Machine," like, but like
that was
like that's like kind of an ensemble movie
well,
that Cusack's in.
And it was
He's only in the first one, and that's like only 2 years later.
Oh god, the
Well,
second one
isn't
is
like there like a
awful.
deleted scene in the second one where he like comes back and like shoots Rob Corddry in the head or something like that?
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
There is.
Weird.
Do any of you remember the closing shot of 2012 though? Spoiler alert for 2012 for a 10 plus year old movie. It literally zooms out. They're all on a boat and the world is water. And it
The
just
world is
zooms out. And
water.
they're like, "We're gonna be okay." I'm like, "No, you're not.
I think I've seen
Cannibalism is imminent." like,
The fact
you
that
are all going
2012
to.
came out in 2009, like, come on, dude. Should have came out in 2012. You should
I think
have
it was
done
too
the.
soon. Or not too soon, it was just too close. People would get freaked out.
Yeah, I
Well,
remember
that's the
someone.
point. People would go see it. It would be like when the Omen remake came out on 666. You got to do it.
I don't remember which critic it was, but they were like, you know, when watching that movie, when they explain like how the Earth's crust is like, you know, cracking open and like the lava is oozing out. They're like, it kind of sounds like a grilled cheese sandwich. Now I'm hungry. like,
That's really funny.
Yes.
yeah,
I wish my geology teacher talked about the Earth's crust in terms of like, you know, like a really good burger. Yeah, think of that.
yeah.
My ass in ninth grade would be like, oh, fucking what? I'm paying attention now.
Hell yeah, bro.
Yeah. Starring Harvey Keitel as Lieutenant Fred O'Connor. Prior to this, Mean Streets in 1973, Blue Collar in 1978. After this, Reservoir Dogs and Bad Lieutenant in 1992. Just a banger year for Keitel right there. The Piano in 1993. Smoke and Clockers in 1995. Little Nicky in 2000. That's right. Red Dragon in 2002. Kind of like that movie. The music video for Jay-Z's DOA in 2009. Okay music video. And The Irishman in 2019.
It's interesting.
Grand Budapest Hotel in 2014.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But it's interesting how like I know like when we say like what an actor's known for, we have to like kind of condense their filmography and anything. But it is interesting how like most of Keitel's like major movies are like from the 70s and the 90s, and the 80s is kind of like a weird limbo decade where it's like, what's his deal? Like, what movies is he doing? He's in like Offbeat and like some like The
Pacino.
Border and.
Very much like Pacino, yeah.
Well, but Pacino had at least had Scarface and Sea of Love and everything, and I mean, Cruising is like a movie that was like bombed at the time and everything, but like, you know, like people like that now and everything. Whereas Keitel, it's like kind of like a lot of weird supporting roles in like movies that kind of just don't really have a lot of reputation, except Last Temptation of Christ, which I need to see. And
Last Temptation of Christ, The Piano. He was hot in The Piano. People had the hots for him in The Piano. It's a hot movie.
They
And
could
it-
not
and
stop
it's-
Harvey Keitel from showing his fucking wiener. Like, they could
And
not
it-
do it in the 90s.
His
That
bare,
was a
bare ass.
that was a critically acclaimed movie that was also a hit with audiences, where Holly Hunter had an affair with Harvey Keitel and he was fucking hot. And she was already married to Sam Neill. Like, those were the two people that like adults used to go to movies like that. Now it's like, I don't know, fucking who's on Teen Wolf? I don't know. Like,
Is Teen Wolf even on anymore?
I
No,
don't
it
know.
isn't.
They're-
No, they did that movie like a couple of years ago, I think.
I was about to say,
isn't-
have we already got to our old man rant? Because, I mean, I'll join in, but...
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, as the youngest person by a mile on this chat, no, I'm joking. It is one of those things when I was just watching Keitel in this, and it's like, he's hot in this as well. He's just a very attractive looking man. This form of Keitel would never lead a movie nowadays. Those men don't lead
No.
movies now. I mean, I was watching, I've been talking about this because I feel like, I don't know, it made me realize a lot of stuff. I rewatched The Dirty Dozen for like the first time in like 10 years or something, a few weeks, like a month ago or something, and just watching Lee Marvin as like a movie star and like looking at like projects that were popular and financially successful, and he was known to audiences. That's like the meanest looking bastard you've ever seen, and he was like a movie star. We don't have
Yeah.
mean bastards as leading men anymore. Those just don't
No.
exist. Those
They
are
need-
character actors now.
I watched Point Blank recently, which he's the lead in, and I was thinking like, oh, what's he in this? He's like, what, 50 or 60? And he's like, no, he's like 40. He just looks like that.
Yeah, and he's with Angie Dickinson in that movie. God, that movie's so fucking good. I love that
He's
movie.
if black coffee came to life. That's what he is.
One
That's
single
incredible.
black coffee, staying at McDonald's for 8 hours. That's who he is as a man.
Not to mention that they also have to look the same, like, they have to be all vanilla, samey in terms of their appearance, but no sex appeal. We've gotten to the point where there's just no sex appeal in movies anymore. Like, they have to, like, completely transform themselves with stimulants. I mean, There's no proof of that, but we all know it's probably true. And then also no sex appeal whatsoever. Like, you're not allowed to have, like, a personality or even, like, show that off. Like, yeah.
So you're talking about the J.K. Simmons transformation in his new Santa film. That's what you're talking about?
I keep forgetting that's a thing that exists.
What is that called? Like Red Notice, Red Sleigh, Red what?
Red One.
Red One? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's
and
a fake
everyone,
movie.
I've noticed that everyone, including myself, were super confident that this was a Netflix movie, and everyone watching that trailer realized, it's not a Netflix movie. This makes no sense.
It's going to theaters where people have to pay money
Literally.
to watch it.
I think it's the combination of when The Rock did the Netflix movie
Red
Notice, and also like Chris Evans is kind of just like, this seems like such a movie he would take, like, oh, it's a Netflix movie, I can just take a paycheck. And it's like a complete nothing. But no, it's coming to theaters, and it is kind of wild that it exists, even.
Yeah.
The other thing about that movie too is, like, I looked up, I think I looked it up on like IMDb or something, and it said like 142 minutes is the runtime, and I was like, is that a mistake? I mean, it's also possible that it could be like just 142 minutes. Letterboxd says it's an 102 minutes, so it's like, an hour and 42 minutes. But I was like, but it also
Still
like
too
speaks
long.
to like the state of some movies, like where it's like the fact that that there's a possibility this is 142 minutes, like that there is that possibility, that is a little depressing.
A little.
frightening.
It's like, that should,
Yeah.
Copkiller is an hour and 40. Probably could have been shorter. But you know what? Escape from the Bronx, that shit was like 85 minutes.
Yeah.
Felt longer than that, I'll be honest. It did not feel like a short movie.
it felt a little bit longer to me, I think, because I was watching it like rushing, like thinking like, all right, when are we recording and when's this movie over? Like, yeah. Anyways, that's a me problem.
Also starring Johnny Lydon, a.k.a. Johnny Rotten as Leo Smith, Nicole Garcia as Lenore Carvo, Leonard Mann as Bob Carvo, and once again, does this New Line Cinema film have Lynn Shay? No, it is in Italy, and also in New York, but yeah.
You know, she tried. She snuck into some luggage and got onto the set, but then they just they escorted her off.
She got the wrong information. Like, she went to Italy when they were shooting in America, vice versa. Yeah. Trivia: John Lydon's post-punk group Public Enemy Limited was supposed to score the soundtrack for the film.
It's Public Image Limited, not Public Enemy Limited, right?
Oh, that would be funny. Just him screaming British shit over Public Enemy beats. Yeah. Public Image Limited.
Don't believe the hype, babe.
Anarchy.
It was eventually scored by Ennio Morricone. Public Image Limited eventually made a track called The Order of Death, so this happened afterwards. They got the title for the track from the movie.
Gotcha.
Even though she obviously said her lines in English, French actress Nicole Garcia was dubbed for the English version, which, I mean, that happens in Italian movies. It was shot on location in New York City in the Cinecittà studios in Rome between March and April 1982. And for some reason, after the New Line initial rights expired, the film became regarded as public domain in America. Floods of inferior quality releases have been floating around the market, usually either sourced from the original U.S. Thorn EMI videotape or a 16mm print of the edited for television version. It was eventually given a proper Blu-ray release from Code Red in 2017 using the original master from Warner Brothers Vault. So yeah, that's why this movie has like 19 titles, because you can just put it out under whatever fucking title. And some people were just like, oh, we can put that out. Let's put it out as Bad Cop Chronicles 2 Corrupt. What's Bad Cop Chronicles 1? I don't know.
It sounds like how, like, there's a lot of like Hong Kong action movies that are like Yes Madam 3 or whatever, and it has nothing to do with the first two Yes Madams, or
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Was it what's the Donnie Yen one? Special, or no? Fuck, I can't think of it. But there's like the first one of Donnie Yen, then there's a sequel with Tony Jaa, but it's not even kind of related in any way, but it shares the same title. That kind of sounds like, yeah, we said Corrupt or Bad, or what was the last one?
It is Bad Cop Chronicles. Bad Cop Chronicles number 2 Corrupt.
Cop Chronicles. No.
The first one is called, I got it here, Bad Cop Chronicles number 1 Confessions of a Police Captain.
Lieutenant O'Connor, Narcotics Division, New York City Police. He thought he had it made. Fine cigars, a good address, nice friends, and a second income to pay for it all.
Okay, man? Here.
Life was good till a cop was killed and O'Connor met Leo Smith. Order of Death, starring Harvey Keitel and introducing John Lydon.
Hi, who are you?
Me.
How'd you find out about this place?
I've been following you for 6 months. The first time I saw you, I knew I could confess to you.
Fighting for survival, O'Connor played a vicious game with his victim.
You're mine now. Now you'll do exactly what I say from now on.
In this game, only one can win.
Pig! I said you're a pig! Turn it off!
A corrupt cop and a self-confessed killer. Victims of their own guilt.
I want to lead a normal life, take care of my money. But that woman's a danger. Because you want to confess. You feel guilty. And once you have talked to her, you'll have to kill her too.
Harvey Keitel and John Lydon, the masters of corruption, in this tense and powerful thriller. Order of Death, rated 18.
Anyways, that's all the trivia I have. Initial thoughts. Clay, as our guest, why don't you hit us with our initial thoughts on Copkiller, aka Corrupt Lieutenant, aka Order of Death, aka Bad Cop Chronicles #2, Cold and the Corrupt.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that. Can you say it? No. Okay.
I'll say it backwards.
Fine. You know, I didn't hate what. It has an Ennio Morricone score, so it's gonna be probably an okay movie. He doesn't really.
It has like one track of score that they reuse,
It's a
which
pretty
is
good track, though. Yeah, it's a good track.
But they also have like some French guitar that they play that's obnoxious as fuck sometimes over the score. Yeah, but like his little score, which they reuse, which is fine because it's good. But yeah, they definitely were just like, hey, you got some scraps from like when you were doing the thing. He was like, yeah, you can have this.
Do you think that he just, sorry to add, but do you think he just recorded like a little bit and then they were like, can you do any more? And he was just like, I gotta go. And then they just recycled.
I gotta go do Italian things. Oh, yes.
I love how your Ennio Morricone sounds like Goofy. I gotta go.
I gotta go.
I gotta go. I'm sorry, I gotta go work with Sergio over there.
Yeah.
There's this guy named John Carpenter calling me. I gotta go. No, I think it's fine. I like the look of it a decent amount. I think Keitel is just an engaging presence in almost anything. I thought Johnny Rotten, or whatever you want to say, doesn't really match it. He's really he's getting blown out of the water by Keitel in a lot of scenes.
Yeah.
He's just not prepared for the moment. And I feel like if you have, if you replace him with an actor who can rise to what Keitel is doing, I think you have a movie there, and that it jumps up a star or a half star or whatever. But, without that, it's just a very okay watching. The atmosphere is pretty solid. I like this depiction of New York. I think Keitel's engaging just when he's not even doing anything. I think it is the plot is super thin in so many different ways. The editing is fine. It's all good. It's fine or whatever. It definitely didn't blow me away. I didn't hate watching it. I just wish, I think it could have been way better though. I also think the transition between him being imprisoned in the bathroom to the rest of the movie is done it becomes like this weird domestic kind of drama at some points where I'm just like, it was very uneven.
I started to drift away at that point.
Yeah, I think that half point, yeah.
I've seen some people who do like this film consider it to be, I mean, I guess they were going for some type of homoeroticism, I guess, but
I don't see it with them. I see it with him and the other cop.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't get any sense of a weird, twisted power play that was I know that, and then there's the twist, which we can get to, which is the most
barely a twist.
Yeah, barely a twist thing. I agree with you, Clay, about it weirdly made me think about when is that actually worked, where you have a legendary like titan of an actor like Keitel, even in 1983. I mean, we're watching it in retrospect, so like, you know, we know Keitel, but like, when is that like worked? And the only times I can think of, like, when like somebody who's like got that charismatic of a presence and then is like facing off with like a weasel, is that where it's worked is something like There Will Be Blood, weirdly enough, where you have Daniel Day-Lewis and then Paul Dano, who also has very, you know, is like physically not intimidating at all, but and has the same type of features and stuff. And yeah,
I would say it's like with Johnny Rotten is he has the look to be like, I don't like this guy. I don't trust this guy. And then he just keeps showing up, and then I just stop getting weird vibes, and then they're just like, actually, I do have weird vibes. It's just like, I don't buy it anymore now, actually, because you just talk too much.
He's trying way too hard.
He's straining. He's straining and showy, and he's more annoying than menacing.
He's funny when he's being like a snotty little shit and everything, because I think that was like his whole. I mean, that seems like. I'm not like a huge expert on like the Sex Pistols. I only know like a few of their songs, but like that seems like that was like their whole vibe of just being like, you know, snotty. So like he's
British,
good at that one.
I'm British.
Yeah. I say bad words on TV. But like that whole vibe, like he's good when he's doing that, but it's like the one note that he really has in his repertoire, and like that's not enough to go up against Keitel, who has like many notes to play. He has like a whole freaking keyboard. Keep that analogy going.
God damn.
I mean, what are some other? I mean, I'm curious actually. Now we're talking about this, like thinking of like, I mean, because I think maybe the British thing of like him being like an heir to like, you know, like some sort of like British family with like lots of money and like class being very important in England. Who do you think like some English actors from around this time who are around his age, who do you think would have been like a good replacement in this? Like, I mean,
Judi Dench.
There we go. Get him in there. Yeah.
What's Terrence Stamp doing at this point?
Oh, he's got to be. I mean, he was doing like Teorama around this time, I think.
That's like in the late 60s, right? And
yeah,
like,
and he's way too old.
Maybe.
And Superman
guess,
too.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy, right?
He's
Okay,
way too old.
Yeah, okay. Why did I think Teorama was in like the 70s? But
Are we thinking? Do you think this character, like him being a young guy, matters, or do you think the age is not relevant?
It seems pretty integral to the plot. I mean, I think that's the whole thing. It's like he's this wayward youth who became a fucking psycho.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't know what to do with his life, so he just chose, I guess I'll become a serial killer. Like, also that character is written not super well. Like, that whole motivation of him wanting to kill cops is like, he read a book, okay, and it's like then he just becomes obsessed with this random guy. It's just, I don't know. There's not, that character is super underwritten. It's just, it's all written to be like, okay, we got the guy from the Sex Pistols. Let's have him be British, annoying, and vaguely creepy.
I mean, I guess, yeah. Like, well, there's no real subtext in this movie. I mean,
no,
it's all very out in the open.
What, are cops are bad? Sure, I guess.
Which I'm all for this movie's politics. Don't get me wrong.
But what are
like,
its politics? Like, cops are kind of no good. Like, I don't know.
And also, like, it's one of those plans that Lydon's plan in the movie. It like depends on like a lot of factors where it's like, how would you have been able to plan this? Like, you know, that like this is gonna happen or anything, that like Keitel was like gonna like keep you, like, you knew he was gonna kidnap you and like keep you locked up in the bathroom and everything. That seems like a bit of a reach. And also like the thing of like, I was confused too. I'm sorry if I'm like jumping in with like initial thoughts.
We've all basically just been like interspersing our initial thoughts. I think we're all kind of, Clay said it's fine, and we're all like nodding in agreement. Like,
yeah, I mean,
and here are our reservations. Yeah, like this is basically what we've been doing. Yeah,
but like the bit too, like where like, so Keitel like accidentally kills his partner when like he like hits him and like when he hits his head on the toilet after getting knocked down by Keitel and everything. And Keitel is the one who like leans down and like listens to his heartbeat and says like, oh yeah, he's fine and everything, and then makes Lydon kill him. But then he says like, oh no, he was already dead and everything. But then like there's like a whole conversation I think where Lydon says like, oh, he was still alive when you made me kill him and everything. And it's like, how would Lydon have known that? He was in the bathtub. How did he hear the heartbeat? Like,
There's a close up of the partner kind of moving a little bit when he's on the ground in the park. Like his head, like he's kind of you could see him kind of breathing. Yeah.
I missed that too. Yeah.
There are sequences though where it's like I think you make perfect sense. It's like I think some people have like similar criticism of like Joker in The Dark Knight is like how is he able to plan all of it? But that's a comic book movie, and that he's supposed to be kind of like mystical and like all knowing and like kind of like an unstoppable force. In this, it's like I don't think the movie can ever tell if how much control he actually is in, like what is actually part of his plan, what isn't. Because at the end, he's now supposed to be this master manipulator, but but even looking back at what happened previously throughout the entire film, you never buy that for a second. Besides maybe in the second half, you can see some of that, but like in that first half, it does not seem like he's playing some grand trick or anything. It's all just happenstance and just kind of odd. And that characterization of him never fully coalesces to anything actually either interesting or unique. He's just like British guy number 5 who is like, yeah, sure, he's a serial killer. Look at him. He kind of looks like it.
Well,
he talks weird.
Everybody has a one-note character that is pretty much just they speak out what they're feeling from the word go, and they don't really go anywhere from there apart from him, and he's just annoying. Like he's never really menacing.
Right. And it was funny when you said that everyone has playing one note character. I was about to disagree with you. I'm like, no, Keitel's like that character's super complex, and I just realized it's just because it's his performance.
It's his
like,
performance.
Actually,
he doesn't even need
just his performance.
It's his presence. He doesn't even need to try. I mean, I guess by going into what I thought of the movie too, and I guess I'm interjecting here, so I'm sorry about that. But like, everything we're talking about, like, it's stylized enough to be like clearly identifiable in that Italian Euro thriller genre, but like it's not stylized enough to the point that like it's uber trashy or even like I don't know. It's a little too. It's grounded just enough in reality to the point that it doesn't really feel like it has its own identity. It's just sort of plain and there, which is weird to say about a movie that's kind of clearly following in the footsteps of this, European movement of the late 70s, early 80s. But like, yeah, it's just. I mean, Keitel's doing the most work because he's just such a good actor. That character itself is kind of boring. I mean. And everybody else just has one note to play. I mean, from the moment the movie starts, it's just like, what a nice apartment we have. I'm feeling conflicted. Well, we're not that bad. Like, that's pretty much like what it is. And then it's just, everybody just kind of just goes in the direction that you think they're going to go in from there.
I think with Keitel, with this movie, I do also, I felt that conflict too. I'm like, does this movie want to be like this dirty, gritty exploitation kind of indie, or does it want to be like a respectable cat and mouse thriller? Like, I couldn't really tell. It's like trying to operate like on this almost prestige, like this is a movie kind of level, or something kind of dirty and gritty and not begging for your respect. Like, I can't tell like where it's trying to what kind of genre or what kind of atmosphere it's trying to operate within, because it's trying to, I don't know, it never gets as hairy or messy as one like an exploitation like a Abel Ferrara movie like Miss 45 or something. It never gets to something that like wide, like loose and non-linear.
It's somehow tonally consistent, but that tone is just in a safe middle for something that should feel, as you put, Clay, messier, grimier, for something that's about moral gray areas and corruption and stuff like that. It doesn't really feel like it's taking any as many chances as it should, either in the atmosphere, in the style, in the I don't know, like I don't know, it just felt kind of plain, weirdly.
100%. That's my problem with the movies. I feel like the style is like pretty one note, and I and also like the themes or how it explores the themes of the movie. Like I feel like I got like pretty early on, like it's like, oh, this guy is like repressed about like his sexuality and everything, and he's using this as like a sort of a means to sort of like deal with it and not deal with it at the same time. Like that's kind of I mean, because I did detect a bit of homoeroticism. I mean, I'd heard about that sort of like going into the movie. I'd heard like, because this movie the few people who has seen it, like I think Matt Lynch like mentions that in like in his Letterboxd review, and I definitely got that when like, you know, Johnny Rotten is saying like, it's hot in this bathroom, and then Harvey Keitel's like, take your clothes off then and everything, and you see him like watching through the peephole and everything. So it's like he's using that as like a pretense to sort of like, you know, dance around it, even if maybe the character himself is not aware of it. But like that's really as deep as the movie goes in like the first 30 minutes, and it's also like the thing of the movie's like treatment of like some of like the more kinkier aspects of like sexuality as like as an immediate red flag of like a guy being unhinged. Like when he goes to see Johnny Rotten's room and like he turns on the lights and you get that Ennio Morricone music, so you're like doo-doo, when it's like the black and white photos of the guys in gas masks with their shirts off. I'm like, okay, come on, like, this is a little silly. Like
what
it's
if
like,
he's
oh, this guy's
gay? Ooh.
Yeah, and then some masks. Ooh,
spooky. He might be attracted to men. Oh no!
You know what's worse than killing cops? I won't say it, but
Kissing
this movie.
boys. But it's that type of homoerotic. It treats homoeroticism as like, I can't take this joke. It's one of the I love it so much, but it's like, it's I think it was Megan Gans who was like, you know how you have a friend of your mom's that's like, let's be naughty, but what she really means is let's pour Kahlua over ice cream. Like that's kind of what this movie is.
Right.
Anybody got a wine
like,
spritzer? I'm trying to get fucked up.
Yeah, like it's that kind of a thing.
How do we make this villain uneasy? Make him more, I don't know,
British.
feminine?
Oh, gay?
Or,
No, yeah.
or he has shirtless guys in his room.
Yeah.
Which would
we got
influence prisoners about 30 years from now. Yeah. Because my initial thoughts are Clay's first word, which is, this is fine. But yeah, I did notice some, not prisoner influence because prisoners came out afterwards, but definitely where it's just like getting a guy that you're like probably don't think is actually the killer, but you want him to confess to feel better about yourself kind of thing. So, speaking of Paul Dano as far as Charlie's comparison.
I was just thinking of that.
I also don't understand Keitel's character's, like, what he's thinking at any point. Like, I don't understand his thought process throughout the entire fucking movie. Like, why he's keeping him kidnapped for so long. Like, without, like, what is... Like, at the beginning, it's like, so are you gonna kill him? Are you trying to convince him not to give up the police by torturing him more, but also not? You're actually taking a break from torturing, you're just keeping him in a bathtub, having him eat from a dog bowl? What's your goal?
Well, it's almost like there's scenes missing of him being conflicted about how he doesn't know what he's doing, because I feel like that would even make more sense, that he's a mess. But
it's like he thought of the idea to keep him, and it's like, what now? It's like, I don't know, I'll think of that while I'm keeping him.
Yeah, but it's like those, it's just...
And that's where you could say, oh, those are the sexual undertones, especially like the scene where he grabs him by the neck, he's like, you're mine now, and like, in a very like weird, possessive way that could be deemed sexual, especially if you find it to be like a BDSM or kinky kind of relation. I don't know. It's weird because, like, yeah.
And the way they settle into a period of domesticity and everything, where they're having breakfast together and like buying stuff, and it's like, where are you going? When are you coming back? And anything, like they are arguing sort of like a couple
shaved.
or anything.
Yeah.
It looks like you shaved. Oh, you're going to the office. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and again, like, I would have liked it if the movie, like I said, if the whole movie had been about them being just like asshole roommates to each other. I wish the movie had like cranked it up a little bit. Like the most they get annoyed with each other is like,
Harvey,
is like
you never take out the trash.
I know I'm a serial killer, but at least I do the dishes.
Well, I mean, like that's like the bit in What We Do in the Shadows where they're arguing about who does the bloody dishes or anything. It's like, but yeah, it's like it doesn't get like crazy enough, I don't think, or like it doesn't get amped up enough for my taste. Like
it just really, feels like it happens, and you're like, oh, I guess we're here now. Like there's no build up. It's like we're here, cool, okay. And then they try to have this one scene where this is the scene where Fred spills everything out, and he's gonna really pour his heart out for this guy, this stranger, this weirdo. Is like, it starts from childhood. You grow up and you want certain things, and that's the scene. Like that's all he says is like, you want certain things as a kid, and then corruption. He didn't know what it meant. It was who's corrupt here,
You grow up,
It's like
you want to be a cop, and you want to
nonsense.
get another apartment through corrupt money, and you know.
The story.
As far back as I can remember, I wanted to be a cop.
Right.
And then there is that scene. I mean, there is a pivotal scene in this movie where Harvey Keitel goes to visit his grandmother, played by Sylvia Sidney, who is most famously known. I have to point this out. I feel like most people would probably know her as, the character in Beetlejuice who actually has her throat slit and smoke comes out of her throat.
Is she the receptionist?
Yeah, she's the
Or
receptionist.
not the receptionist. No, she's not the receptionist. She's like the office manager.
Yeah, the office manager. She is not British, right? Like she's not
he's
British.
Not supposed
is she?
to be British. He's not supposed to be British either. He just grew up in England.
Yeah.
Right, he does.
I'm as
have a
American
line
as
about
I'm as American as you are. I just grew up in England.
Okay, because that confused me too. Because
It makes no sense. It was true. It made no sense.
But
Sylvia
and
Sidney
also the
is
reason I bring up
American.
the throat cutting thing is because it also plays thematically with everything that goes on in this movie, and I was just like, that would be funny if the character in Beetlejuice was just like,
I'm as American as you are, Harvey Keitel.
Yeah,
I'm as
like-
American as you are. I'm not from the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, but there's that whole scene where it's like he felt bad about being wealthy. Like it's just.
Maybe
It's
he
also
wants
just-
to be punished.
But that's so on the nose too. Like,
Right.
But it's also that's from a more fun movie where I'm like, I want the movie that she is in and that Keitel just walked into. I don't want him to go back to him, dealing with him tied up in the bathtub or whatever. But
Sylvia Sidney ties up Harvey Keitel in her bathroom or something.
Oh my god, are you kidding? I would watch the
kick
movie in a
ass.
heartbeat.
Yeah. Sylvia Sidney was born in New York. She's American.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's so funny, like watching that scene, or like there's that moment in the end where like he's trying to convince Leo Smith is the name. Leo Smith is trying to convince Fred O'Connor to kill Bob's wife, and he's like, you want to confess, don't you? You just want to confess. And at one point I'm just surprised Harvey Keitel didn't say, look who the fuck is talking. You're the confess guy. That's all you do is confess. That's your main thing. You love confessing.
Yeah.
You love confessing the stuff you did. You love confessing the stuff you didn't do. What are you talking about?
I mean, that whole thing is weird too because that's his friend's wife, and she immediately calls him out on his bullshit in the first scene that they're interacting with together, and then that doesn't really go anywhere either. Like, not really in any interesting way. They just kind of set this up as like, oh, things are gonna get even more tense from here. There's clear like she's calling him out on the corrupt bullshit and stuff, and then that doesn't really pay off either. It just sort of plateaus from there. I don't
She
know.
also apparently wrote a book that basically said cops are the enemy of society, and she is, one, dated a cop, and two, then married another cop. And it's like one of those things where it's like, what is this characterization? Like, because you're...
And it's like if you would ask that character, you'd expect her to be like, "Oh, I know, but I mean, like,
Have you seen them?
And also, Keitel, definitely not the world's best partner by killing his partner, but also like them, like saying like, hey, sorry you lost your husband. You want to like maybe get some coffee or something like that? Like he like waits like not long after he's dead to like move in on the wife again.
I had to do it. It would have been suspicious if I didn't." I mean, that's like when the movie starts to get. Again, the movie always has these like hints of getting interesting and heated in certain ways, and then just kind of. The word flaccid just popped up into my brain, but I don't want to use that word. Too late. I spoke into a microphone. Anyway, oh, God damn it.
Anything else about Copkiller? So instead, we can talk about Bad Lieutenant.
Harvey Keitel. I don't think we've talked about a movie with him before. What are some of our favorite performances or even just movies, because I that could be an interesting distinction. It's like maybe not the best performance but the best movie, but like what are some performances or movies of his that stick out to you? I mean, Kevin just said one, but yeah, I'm curious.
Well, Kevin, you just watched Bad Lieutenant twice in 48 hours?
24, yes.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
I would...
Jack Bauer?
Jack Bauer, yes. I would say probably Reservoir Dogs is my favorite from him. Probably not a day goes by that I don't think about him just talking about to Mr. Orange in the car while he's like bleeding out. Or him as Sport in Taxi Driver.
First time I ever heard my mom say the word fuck was when we were watching Pulp Fiction together, and when, he says, pretty please with sugar on top, clean the fucking car. My mom, basically, slammed on the table and was like, clean the fucking car! And it was just it was an eye-opener to me when I was 13. That was I definitely think Pulp Fiction was the first thing I saw him in. Reservoir Dogs, he's great. I mean, yeah.
You want to know what the first thing I saw him in?
What?
Little Nicky.
Might have been National Treasure for me. He's in both of those, I think.
Yes, he is.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Peter Sadowski.
He plays the Fed? Is that...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. My favorite... I mean, when I saw Bad Lieutenant, a year or two ago, I mean, that obviously is, that's just, a perfect performance. There's nothing he could he was in the National Treasure TV show on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
What? There was a TV show?
I might have known that at one point.
For an episode.
I remember, I don't remember, I had to look it up, but when I was, because I love watching old Siskel and Ebert reviews, even Roger Ebert, when Bad Lieutenant came out, he was like, this movie's NC-17, which means it's death at the box office, and
do
it
not
will not
send
be
hate
nominated
mail
for
to
Oscars.
me.
Yeah, but he basically said, we're going to get letters saying, how can you recommend such a disgusting film? But he was like, you will not see a better performance by an actor than Harvey Keitel in Bad Lieutenant, and it will not get nominated because it's NC-17, and it's the subject matter is so controversial. But even Roger Ebert was like, yeah, that's the performance of the year. You won't see anything better. It won't get recognized, but you won't see any better work by an actor this year.
It's one of the great performances.
It's incredible.
It's truly just a magnificent piece of acting. And I mean, all his Wes Anderson performances are really solid. Obviously, his Scorsese stuff rules. He's always consistent. I mean, he has such a great face. His Tarantino stuff is also really solid, Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. I mean, Reservoir Dogs is obviously the highlight. But obviously in the piano, he's insane,
he's
insanely
incredible.
good.
Yeah.
No, he's one of the great actors.
There's that moment in the piano where he just basically says, this is turning me into a monster and you into a whore. And I can't live with that. I'm sorry, I'm only using that word because he literally uses that word in the movie. But it's he's so sensitive in that movie or he reveals such a sensitive side over an hour into that movie when you think you have an idea of who he is because he's doing this really skeezy thing. And it just completely, I mean, he's such a brave actor that seems effortless too. You watch something like Bad Lieutenant or even something like The Piano and something that's those two performances are completely different, and you don't see him acting, you just see him kind of inhabiting those people.
Well, it's not just the fearlessness of playing characters who can be so despicable and everything, and playing them at such a vicious level and everything, but also the way not just the despicable nature of the characters, but also playing the fearlessness of not being afraid to go big and everything. Some of the choices in Bad Lieutenant are every time he cries in that movie, or when he's having that big meltdown in the church or everything. It's do you think most actors? I mean, Ebert, I think in his review said most actors would not be able to would not want to be seen in this light. But I also think it's would some actors be thinking, this is probably too much, yelling these lines or making this face or noise.
The only that church scene is fucking phenomenal. I will say that Harvey Keitel is not a good crier.
I buy it.
Completely disagree.
Really?
I think,
Yeah,
like
I buy
his
it.
crying in like that and Reservoir Dogs and City of Industry, he does the same kind of crying
That-
where it sounds like it's like like it's kind of like a whine that like then goes into a howl and everything. I'm like, that's something that sticks in my head. Like,
the final shot of Reservoir Dogs where it's revealed, a character reveals. Look, just in case somebody hasn't seen Reservoir Dogs in the year 2024, when the final shot of that movie is a close up of his face as someone confesses something that he truly feared would not be the case, and it's devastating. And that's like, cool as ice Tarantino debut. Like, I mean, that movie doesn't have an emotional core that would seem very devastating on the surface, but
I mean,
I mean, everybody in that movie's repressing something, and
I think Keitel's the one character in that movie who actually does it. I think he's insanely
you're right.
genuine.
Well, he's trying to maintain his cool in the situation, and it starts off with him just being like, "You're gonna be okay," and then by the end, when you go from the first scene to the last scene of that movie. I guess you're right in terms of like everybody else in that movie, but
Yeah, because Keitel, like within 5 minutes of talking to Steve Buscemi, he was just like, "Yeah, I told him my name. The guy was bleeding to death." Meanwhile, Buscemi, you would never expect him to do something like that.
No, you're right. It's been a minute since I've seen Reservoir Dogs, but I guess doesn't he? I mean, maybe he doesn't cry, but he
cries.
The look of. Just the look of realization on his face in that last shot of Reservoir Dogs.
No, he wails. He wails. I mean,
he's devastated.
Oh God, Jesus Christ! I need to see.
Rewatch Reservoir Dogs. It's fucking great.
I've
great.
seen it a bunch of times, just not in like 10 years.
I rewatched.
Yeah,
I rewatched
Officer
it.
Nash. Officer Nash. My dad.
Oh, that's right. I rewatched the no tip scene last night for I was on a YouTube rabbit hole, was doing things. Don't worry about me. But he has that moment where these women, they bust their ass, and you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, he is, I think, that actor. He's just defined in dichotomy. In a way, like, almost all of his characters, like, he presents himself as, like, the most masculine motherfucker to ever exist. Like, harder than diamonds. Like, you could not cut him with a fucking machete. He is so hard to the touch. He is a man's man. But almost all of his performances, he reveals something extremely sensitive about him. Or super vulnerable.
No, you're
Even
right.
in Reservoir Dogs, playing, like, the guy... He has, like, you're gonna be okay, like, very genuine and soft and, like, loving scenes. Like, he almost takes this guy as his, like, son in a lot of scenes.
Yeah.
Where he's, like, worrying about how he's, to save him. And like you mentioned with the piano. And there's certain... he still is able to maintain, or show some vulnerability in certain scenes like that. Especially, like, when he's on the couch, like, with a blazer but no shirt underneath. I didn't understand that one.
I even just thought of Thelma and Louise, where he is very much a supporting player, and you don't know anything about that character's interior life. But like when the shit goes down, you can tell he's genuinely like, "Fuck, man!" Like,
Louise, I'd do anything. Oh, that gets me.
Yeah. He's so good in that. I mean, also another Abel Ferrara film that he's so brave in that. I mean, they finally just released it. A new Cinematheque just released the new restoration of Dangerous Game with him and Madonna, and holy shit, that movie where he was basically playing Abel Ferrara. Like, he's basically Abel Ferrara surrogate. That movie is.
But even in, like,
incredible.
Taxi Driver, where he plays, like, a despicable piece of shit that you want to, like, rub in the dirt, he does show, like, vulnerability and sensitivity in that role.
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's a very good point.
His whole, like, mantra, or, like, his whole acting style to me is, like, inherent dichotomy. You know, how he presents himself, very masculine, very New York. Again, you don't want to fuck with this guy. And then the moment you spend more than, like, 20 minutes with him, you find there's, like, a lot of softness. And he's super comfortable with revealing that. And I think that's also why I think he's such a respected actor, is because he's comfortable operating within the masculinity and also being able to be comfortable with his own emotions and not. And like Ebert said, who else could do Bad Lieutenant? Who would feel that comfortable and that secure with themselves, that secure with their masculinity and their faith and the things that they believe who could do something like that? It's an incredible piece of work.
I mean, I could imagine a world where, like, Willem Dafoe could do that, but could he do it in the same way that
it was gonna
No.
be Christopher Walken, and Christopher Walken was just like, I can't do this. Come on now.
I mean, I love Christopher Walken, and I'm not saying he couldn't do that, but it wouldn't be the same thing. I think that everything that you've all brought up, it's just, there is a sense of vulnerability.
How does Keitel showcase his masculinity and his voice action in Arthur and the Invisibles?
A lot, but I don't have enough time to get into it. But there's a lot there.
There's also a great scene. He's in like one scene of this movie, The Congress, with Robin Wright, which seems eerily prescient, given the way we're going in terms of how AI is now becoming very prevalent, in which Robin Wright basically plays a version of herself and signs a contract for them to give for her to give them like Hollywood permission to use her image and her body in whatever way they want, and she's initially hesitant to like she shows up on set for them to like photograph her in whatever futuristic way that movie decides to photograph her, and Keitel is the one who has to talk her into it. And he's, like, only in that one scene, as far as I recall. I haven't seen that movie in, like, a decade. But, like, he manages to, like, make everything feel intimate and allow her to be vulnerable in a weird way. And you'd think about, like, that type of thing where you'd be like, Harvey Keitel's the one to have her let her guard down. But it's such brilliant casting for exactly the same reasons of he's everything that you all just pointed out that I now, as I'm thinking back on it, was like, yeah, what am I talking about? He is the beating heart of Reservoir Dogs, and always is kind of that. He always kind of acts tough, but you can tell he's a wounded animal deep inside type of thing, and he manages to capture that in just like one scene of that movie, and then he's just gone from the movie, but that one scene leaves an impact for the rest of the runtime.
I need to see that. I honestly, I mean, watching this, like, it does make me want to just go on like a kick of watching all these movies, because I feel like there's like still, I've seen like 20 plus movies with them, and I feel like there's still like such a great body of work to catch up on.
Just looking at his face, I'm just like, I just want to watch. I want every movie I watch to have him in it. He's just such a engaging presence. It's something that we just don't really have in lead men anymore, is like truly engaging presences, even if they're not doing much.
Well, he's so distinctive physically too. Like, there's nobody else who really looks exactly like him. And vocally. Yeah.
Saying here that neither Clay or Bryden has seen Little Nicky. I'm just making sure about that. Where he plays the devil. Who's slowly
I will also lay my cards on the
deteriorating.
table. I have seen Little Nicky, but I was drunk at a New Year's Eve party. I have no memory of that.
Pick up that new Shout Factory Blu-ray. Spend $25 on Little Nicky.
There's a new Shout Factory release of Little Nicky.
Also, what is it? Quentin Tarantino plays somebody in it. There was a Game Boy Color. Yes.
Game Boy Color version of that game.
Yeah.
Of that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino shows up in it for some reason. Yeah. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at KevBonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at JDoyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CTNash91. Once again, thank you for listening.